Sabrina met Oscar when she was an intern at the court. The feelings came suddenly, and the young couple soon fell in love. After a few months, Sabrina and Oscar dated and the man quickly proposed. They decided to live first for themselves, to build a career in the legal field, and only then did they start thinking about having children. Over the years, the spouses got used to each other and the passion decreased a bit, but they lived well. Sabrina couldn't deny that she was happy with the kindness and affection of her husband. And just like in the beginning, Oscar still gave her flowers and gifts, and often said words of love. The woman thought she had the ideal husband, and that she was the happiest woman in the world at that time. But one day, she had to face the harsh reality. Sabrina worked as a lawyer in an office and often had to work late. One night, she had told her husband that she would be late because she had a lot of work, but her boss released her to go home earlier than expected. Sabrina then ran happily home, hoping to make a good surprise for her husband. But when she entered the apartment silently, she heard women's laughter and then voices. Scared and outraged, she recognized the voices of her husband and cousin. Then she heard sighs and the sound of kissing. The woman heard enough to know what was happening in the room. She didn't want to see and quietly left the apartment without locking the door behind her. She spent the night working in the office, without sleeping for a single second. In the morning, the first thing the girl did was go to her boss and request a leave of absence due to difficult personal circumstances. As Sabrina had always been in good condition and enjoyed working, she never refused to work overtime or on weekends. But it had been a long time since she had taken a vacation, and the girl had won good cases for the firm, so they granted her days off without any questions. After that, she went home to pack her things while Oscar was at work. Sabrina was packing her things in a hurry because she was sad and wanted to disappear. At night, she had already decided where to go. Sabrina was going to her grandfather's farm. It was a farm that was located in a village that the woman had inherited in a small community, far from the city. Oscar didn't know about this place because Sabrina's grandfather had died before he could meet him, and Sabrina hadn't been there since the funeral. The girl was packing her things to go to the farm, because no one would find her there, and she needed some time just for herself. She had absolutely no strength to communicate with her unfaithful ex-husband and her cousin, who was no longer her friend. The woman felt betrayed and dead inside. When she gathered all her things, Sabrina stopped in the middle of the room, looked around with a farewell gaze at the surroundings, and left. She knew she would never come back. She felt such a need to change everything in her life that she was even ready to give up being a lawyer. Sabrina arrived in the community by bus. She walked along the dirt road to the farm and entered from the back. The woman was silent for a minute, then slowly closed the gate behind her, leaving behind all the sadness and worries. After 2 weeks, Sabrina slowly came back to herself, and during this time she met her neighbors, who turned out to be very nice people. They helped Sabrina settle into a new place, told her where and what to do in the community, and where they went to have fun. Her neighbor Lauren and her family even helped the woman for a few days, even cleaning her yard. The woman was immensely happy with the kindness of her neighbors who became friends, and even started to smile again. They didn't know her well, but they certainly did a lot of good for her in just a few days, and the woman was already feeling better. One morning, her neighbor Lauren appeared and asked Sabrina for help. The girl's car broke down, and on top of that her husband was harassing her. She needed a lawyer to file for protective measures and involve the police. But there was no police or lawyer in the community within an hour's distance. At that moment, Sabrina realized she couldn't hide her profession. Sabrina immediately took her neighbor to the nearest police station and requested what was necessary to have her husband removed. 2 days later, the measures were granted and the husband stopped harassing Lauren. The neighbor was immensely grateful to Sabrina. Soon, the entire community knew that the woman who had arrived was a great lawyer. And Sabrina suddenly realized that she had never felt greater joy than seeing her neighbor well and knowing she had helped. Being a lawyer gave her great satisfaction, and she couldn't imagine how she had thought about giving up what she loved so much. Well, in just a month, Sabrina then opened a law office to serve everyone in the village. She was genuinely happy to start a new life and be useful to the people around her. Of course, her old firm didn't want to let such a competent lawyer go, but Sabrina insisted and, to her great joy, they understood the girl and she left her old job. A few months later, Sabrina was approached by a man who wanted to resolve legal issues related to the documentation of his daughter to be accepted into a public school. A good-looking man who introduced himself as Tom. Sabrina only caught a glimpse of the man, noticing his beautiful eyes. But she immediately shook herself, pushing away strange thoughts. Sabrina analyzed the case and asked the man to call the child's mother to ask her some details. Suddenly, there was silence. The man said he didn't have a wife. She had died a few months ago. Sabrina immediately turned her gaze to the little angel lying in bed. The bright blue eyes looked at Juliana with confidence. In front of her was a young girl who no longer had a mother's love. How painful it must have been for this little girl to face such injustice in life. Sabrina looked at Tom again and felt empathy or understanding of his pain arise in her heart, which she herself did not understand at the time. Every day, Tom went to Sabrina's office with his daughter to talk. At the door, Tom offered to come and pick Sabrina up every night to make her more comfortable. The woman wanted to refuse, but unexpectedly and somewhat awkwardly, she agreed. He was a handsome man, and so Sabrina felt embarrassed and shy in his presence. She even thought of regretting agreeing to let him pick her up, but there was no turning back. A year passed, and Sabrina was sitting on the terrace drinking tea when she felt strong arms embracing her from behind, followed by a gentle kiss on the cheek. The woman closed her eyes and smiled, remembering the events of the previous year. It was the most beautiful moment, because she finally found true love. Tom melted her heart. It turns out he had seen her much earlier than she had seen him and fell in love at first sight. His daughter's case brought them together. Also, it was a difficult time because she had to confront her past life because of her ex-husband and cousin. She wanted to put an end to the past relationship, so she went to the place where she had left her husband and cousin. As it turned out, nobody was really looking for her. The cousin and her ex-husband were already living together. The divorce was just a formality to be completed. The ex-husband didn't even try to justify himself, he just said that life is an unpredictable thing. That was the last time Sabrina saw them. Now there was nothing left to connect her to her past life. And she could devote herself to the man she loved and who she met thanks to her grandfather. Sabrina then sighed, freeing herself from the remnants of unpleasant memories. She stroked Tom's hand and rejoiced that they had so many happy moments ahead of them. The man whispered in Sabrina's ear that she was his life and love, and hugged her. Dear friends, if you have made it this far, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of today's story. And see you soon, for more wonderful tales.